Hello, checking in with chapters 11 to half of chapter 16 of The Wtr Dncr by Ta-Nehisi Coates, 2019 novel set in a alternate history, um, United States kind of slavery south, but we've actually by the end of this we've come to Philadelphia to what I guess is a north that definitely is different. This is the thing of being a Canadian and not being that well steeped, except for the most general broad strokes in U.S. history and the history of slavery in the South. Um, you know, that this work and the work by Colin Whitehouse are doing alternate histories. Um, this one is alternate history fantasy. I guess Whitehouse was as well. And so you've got that kind of extra layer of um, knowing things are kind of different, but not knowing how much things are different, but then knowing, oh, this is really different. So um, at the end of the last section, he had been sold off to this what looked like a mild-mannered man, put in this hole. Um, what happens is Hiram is then pulled out with a bunch of other people and hunted by low whites. And this seems to happen sort of, it happens again and again that he gets hunted and then captured. And at first he gets hunted and he gets captured very quickly. And then he gets smart at it. He gets better at the kind of running away, of doubling back, of figuring out stuff. Until the final one, he splashes into water, and I think, oh, is that? Do we have a bit of conducting happens? At which point, he, oh God, at which point and my low battery light came on, and I was illuminated in my horrificness. Um, and when he comes to, he's with Herbert Walker again, the guy who fished him out the last time. And it turns out that this whole thing has been a kind of an elaborate test by the underground, because is it Kristen, the woman that was going to be married to his brother, his white brother, half brother, Myron, turns out is a part of the underground. And we have a whole section here of him being trained up. They know that he can conduct. That's what they call it. They've had there's another person who has the same thing, this kind of teleportation. And they train him up. And he gets trained up. And actually the white guy who had been his tutor earlier is also a part of the thing. And he gets more tutoring. And he learns how to he's given kind of the documents and journals of kind of white quality, the slavers, and learns their entire lives, basically becomes them, and is able to write stuff and basically kind of manufacture documents and things, which is one of the ways they do to sow dissension, to implicate people, to do all the stuff of this underground war that they're doing, because it's not just the underground of like getting people to the free north. It's also a battle against this south, and it's sort of in this section that you realize that while we're going to have a north which seems to be a lot better than it actually is in reality, in actual historical fact, we've also got a South that seems to be a lot more hellish. When they talk about how hellish it was, you kind of thought, like, well, it was. but I think it's like even more so, potentially, or it just is because like I mean, freaking from a black person's point of view, it would be hell, even in just the historical South. Um, they take him on, I think, a one kind of a mission to pick up this one guy who's kind of a rogue, or a thief and the kind of a liar, and they're like, shouldn't we be helping like good people? And it's like, no, this is a war. He's useful. We don't we're not saving people that aren't useful to us because this is a war. You have to kind of triage stuff. So they do that, and also a woman that he's with and stuff like that. And then he's sent south. He said not sent south, sent north to Philadelphia, which is a free city, and there's whites and there's blacks, all things, and there's blacks that are like dressed as fine as the whites, and there's whites that are even more abject. There's more abject than you've seen of any black person in the South. Um, and he's introduced to a new part of the society. This is the part of the society that just works in the open and has running battles with whites. And they go to help a woman who is asked for sanctuary because in this state you're not allowed to have you know a black slave, and if someone asks for sanctuary, they get freed, and that such a person like this woman that they come upon who's being held by this white man with her little son is there, and she is a cook. And apparently the white man had brought her north to visit family there, kind of to brag and stuff like that. But now she, is free. And like, they nab him in like a steamer or something like that. And like the black people around are like openly taunting and jeering and kind of closing in on him. Like the kind of implication is this guy's going to get beaten the shit out of, maybe killed by this crowd by the end, which is like you're kind of going, oh, this isn't the actual North. The actual North where, you know, slave hunters would go and they would hunt and they would grab people and they'd spirit them back. But there wasn't this running battle. This wasn't this like, and the laws I don't think were particularly still not that favorable to, like there still, escaped slaves were still considered property in this this historical thing. I think, as far as I know, like I'm going like by 12 years a slave and stuff like that, and yeah, yeah. So it's interesting. This has definitely got kind of like kind of a superhero thing of like you've got powers, and these powers have maybe like altered history. Like black people have have these powers and kind of abilities, and you think it's like, oh, this is like shaped the history of this alternate universe, um, given black people a power to kind of to alter, ameliorate, but also there seems to be maybe even darker in the South. Things have gotten worse. Maybe like the more black people have been able to free themselves, familiar thing, the more the white races have gotten even worse in their reaction to it. Um, there's also just a sort of a thing of how this is written is very much, it reminds me of a 19th century adventure novel. There's that kind of brisk pace and kind of just kind of the language feels like, oh, and what was kind of adventure novels in the 19th century, but the kind of the superhero novels of today. So I can see that. So yeah, yeah. That is the Wtr Dncr, chapters 11 to half of 16, because I got home and I want to talk about it, but that's probably all I'm listening to today. So yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I was looking at somebody's comment on a different book, and they were talking about kind of Pulitzer Prize winners and how they found them overwritten. and they found Colin Whitehead, overwritten. And it's like, oh, is this like the other version of that with Ta-Nehisi Coates, which is, um, it's it's written, but it's still a little bit more pacey and a little less. There's a little bit less flights of rhetoric, um, which isn't to say you that could also just be kind of a preference. I find that we definitely are getting kind of like little mini essay stuff here. Like there's a thing with the female cook at the end here who's like, she says like, this is, freedom. She's told by her liberators, but he's like, yeah, but I've still got my sons back enslaved in the South. It's like, what are you going to do for them? It's like, oh, we can't do it. It's like, well, then this isn't freedom until I have them free as well. So yeah, that's what I have for right now. I think I'm going to stop before my camera gives out on me. More videos later.